Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Spirit Journey. And yes, this is my second live stream for the day. I didn't know I was going to do this live stream. After I did my first live stream today, got, washed and dressed. Then I heard a lot of commotion outside. Uh, police cars after police cars. And so I thought maybe something happened. So I turned on my computer in my living room to try to find out what's happening right now. And in doing so, I did find it said breaking news about Whoopi being suspended. Well, this is what this live stream is about. Yeah, so it's 12:04 p.m. February 2, 2022. And I want to show you, I saw two things on what happened with Whoopi. Um, I can only find one of the videos, but let me just show you. Okay, now Whoopi Goldberg is an actress, and she's on this daily show called The View. Okay, I I I don't watch it. I've seen it before. I don't have television, but I have my computer and I watch. Sometimes you find news about certain things, so you hear about it, just like this. I'm hearing about the View. Um, yeah, so I think I saw this. Maybe it could have been 10 o'clock in the morning, and the news was just breaking. And so I want to show you. I hope I don't get in trouble showing you just a little snippet, because this is by ABC News, and to our understanding, ABC the View is, I think, like owned by or produced by ABC. Okay, so they have control over that show, The View. Okay, The View is a group of ladies, and they have different views on things. And so let me show you. Let me see if I can switch my camera around. Oops. Okay, excuse the. Okay, so I'm going to show you just a snippet. Okay, this is for commentary of The View. See, this is The View. These are the women. There are 5 women there. And Whoopi's is this woman here to the far left. And at least one of these women here is Jewish. Whoopi Goldberg, I just seen the headlines here, breaking overnight. Whoopi Goldberg suspended from View, co-host to miss 2 weeks after Holocaust comments. So I was curious, what could she have said that could cause someone to be suspended? Okay, that suspended means to be punished. Now this show is called The View. Okay, a view is a viewpoint. So on The View, she's being suspended like a child, in my opinion. It's like a child. Let me play it.
Tuesday, she apologized.
I said that the Holocaust wasn't about race, and it was instead about man's inhumanity to man. But it is indeed about race, because Hitler and the Nazis considered Jews to be an inferior race. Now, words matter, and mine are no exception. I regret my comments, as I said, and I stand corrected. I also stand with the Jewish people, as they know, and y'all know, because I've always done that.
The head of the
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, that was that, but I want to find the part which is actually, okay, it's about this book. I guess they were going to have a viewpoint about this book. It's called Mouse or something. It's a book on the Holocaust. And I guess they were maybe commenting on this novel that discusses the Holocaust. Okay, let me see if I can find it here. Let me see. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay.
Because the Holocaust.
Okay, then bring it back a little bit. Okay, let me play it.
As The Holocaust isn't about race.
No.
No, it's not about
maybe
race.
it is.
It's,
Yeah,
they
no,
consider
it's
Jews
about
a different
but,
race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's
Okay, this woman here, she is a Jewish woman, okay? And she had just said that the country, the Nazi Germany considered Jews a different race. Now that is what that regime did promote, but which is correct. What this person is speaking. But continue on.
it's about man's inhumanity to man.
Tuesday, she apologized.
Okay, yeah. So that was the part I wanted to get. Okay, let me turn it back. Okay, that's what I wanted to get, a little snippet. So, sorry about that. So the context of what is being discussed, it wasn't something about being malice. Whoopi Goldberg, I'm not a big fan of the show. I don't watch the show, but it's called The View, and they're going to, I guess, view about this particular book on the Holocaust. So, wow, I was surprised. Now, I feel angry about the situation. When you suspend someone, it's because they did something bad. I'm thinking of suspension like children in school. When a child acts out, fights, curses, things like that, you are trying to bring it, try to do correction so it won't happen again. Now, to have a viewpoint, it's not something, an action of harm to someone. So I'm just a little dumbfounded because I'm from New York City. The show, I checked on the internet to find out where the show is recorded at. It's right here in New York City. And people have different opinions here. And I feel a little lost for words. Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I feel a little lost for words. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. To have an opinion on a historical event, and to have a different interpretation on what it's all about. Now, I went to school I was born and raised here in New York City. Born and raised here in New York City. And once I got into junior high school, that's when it was really integrated. That was in the 1970s. And many of the teachers were of that background. You had mostly white teachers. You had whites and Jewish teachers. Very few black teachers. And we had to learn about the Holocaust. We also learned a little about the transatlantic slave trade. And my understanding of the teachers in teaching about the Holocaust was really about what Whoopi Goldberg had said. That's what I thought. Yes, in Nazi Germany, the Nazi regime taught certain racial purity laws. They had what they call racial purity laws, and forbade the intermarriage of Jews to non-Jews of Germany, and it just escalated. And so the whole regime just expanded, and they started to increase and infringe on more and more rights of the people of Germany. They taught the Nazi Germany targeted Jewish people, Slavics, the elderly. The elderly were the first people targeted. And it just got into like a monster. But but where am I coming from now? Now, I wasn't born during Nazi Germany. But they made sure in New York City, and we have the teachers union in New York City is one of the most powerful union in the country, and many of the people are of the Jewish faith. Many teachers in New York City are Jews. And they made sure in the curriculum in New York City that you learn about the Holocaust. And yes, I learned about the Holocaust growing up. I learned more about the Holocaust than my own Black history. Isn't that something? Even though that was something that happened in another country, it happened in Europe. I live in the United States of America. And pretty much the teachers, what was conveyed in all this was the inhumanity of people. And Whoopi is being suspended like she's some child. I'm dumbfounded. I'm very dumbfounded about the whole thing. Why would you suspend someone on a show called The View, and she's giving her view about a particular book about it's a novel about the Holocaust. And she said in a philosophy that is not, as I just showed you a moment ago, that it was about man's inhumanity to man. And so you're going to suspend her for that? I'm really dumbfounded. I'm dumbfounded. I mean, I was just about to go outside to walk my dogs, but I was just watching a black woman. She moved to St. Croix, and she was doing a card reading, and she was upset, and she started talking about it. I said, I should talk about it also. Yeah, I think it's very important to talk about it because, see, this is a modern day lynching against Black people if they disagree with their masters. And it's no surprise that now in New York City we have a Black mayor. You think that Black mayor is going to protect the lives of Black people in New York? No. And so I have a lot of things to say about it. Okay, to suspend someone is because they did something bad. To disagree with someone does not mean that they're bad. So what you're communicating to me, ABC News, is that you consider to have an opinion about a philosophical thing about man being inhumane to man. Is it true? You have men who kill women. You have women who kill their children. You have gang leaders who kill one another. You have people who kill animals for sport because they're just bored and have nothing better to do. It's not like they want to get a meal for their family or something. No, you have people who kill for sport. And so I tend to agree in the philosophical aspect of what they call the Holocaust. And I think it's very accurate that man is against man. Mankind against mankind. Okay? But she's being now suspended like she's a little child because she doesn't want to, she didn't say what you wanted to hear. You don't know how often people say things that other people don't want to hear, but to suspend them because she's the child. And what does she do? She apologized, and then she's said what I shared with you. This whole thing kind of I have to keep my calm. But this is like a modern day. It's reaffirming to me that there's really no freedom in this country. I love my country. I'm born and raised here, and I served my country in the military. And I'm against harming human beings. Yes, I saw the Holocaust on television. In the 1970s, there was a lot of movies. It was called World Out War. So it was a program. And I watched it with my family. And they showed everything. And they also, they showed it in my school. In the seventh grade, I think it was in the seventh grade, as I was in junior high school, and our teacher was a Jewish teacher, and they showed a film on the brutalities of the victims in those what they call concentration camps, and they showed the bodies the piles of dead bodies being just. They used like a truck to push the bodies in a mass grave. And you know what happened there? It was a little Asian guy. He's from India. Little guy. We were all little, but he was even littler. Yeah, really. I remember how frail looking he was. He was very skinny. He's from an Indian person of Indian ancestry, and from Asia, and he was very tiny, very skinny to short. And he was standing at the time when the movie, and he collapsed and fainted on the floor. Because they want to make sure in New York City that you're going to teach the narratives at a young age and traumatize us to watch something like that. That little boy probably never saw a film like that. But see, I saw that, things like that on television. On television on that, and I think maybe the child was a new immigrant to the U.S. So I was born and raised here, and I saw a lot of things as a child. So they want in New York for it to be mainstream. They wanted people to know about the Holocaust, and it's good to know about what happens to other people. It's very good to know what happens to other people around the world. But my concern is, okay, now, the Holocaust means burnt offering. Okay, so by them using that terminology, the Holocaust, you're saying that what occurred was actually a ritual killing for something. And you just use your imagination. What did they get? What happened shortly after World War II was over? A country of their own, okay? That's the outcome of what they call the Holocaust. Many atrocities happened, and you had many people that were affected by the Holocaust. You had Africans living in Europe at that time. You had Slavic people. You had the elderly, who were the first people targeted in under the Nazi regime. That it started in the early 1930s and ended in the 1940s. It was about a 13-year period. But look in America, about slavery here in America. That happened to several hundred years throughout the Americas. And we haven't even gotten any reparations. But the United States supports the nation of Israel. Every year that the U.S. government, taxpayers, pay money to that country. But does that country give us any money? Black people here. That money should go right here in America first to reimburse, to repair damages. Reparations means to repair, to fix. Just like Oh Whoopi is being fixed right now because she said something that they didn't want her to say. Because she has a different belief, a different view even though the show's called The View. She's not allowed to have a view if it's against a particular narrative. So in New York City, my growing up, I had to learn about the Holocaust. And to my understanding, my Jewish teachers were conveying that it was things against human beings because some people were treated less than human. And isn't that what the transatlantic slave trade was all about? Did you know that the transatlantic slave trade, the whole concept of race wasn't even established yet? People were being kidnapped, human trafficked throughout the world, not just to America or to the Americas. The African people who were enslaved were brought over also to Europe, all over the world. But they didn't have the concept of race back then. Slavery started before the concept of race as we know it today. That was developed. So, in hindsight, with Whoopi's statement about it talks about man's inhumanity to man. So before the concept of race, so what was it all about? If it wasn't if it's not about race, if you didn't have what they call race, so what was it? What race are the Jewish people? What race are they? Please tell me. You have a black woman, Whoopi Goldberg, and she says she gives her opinion, and she said it respectfully, and this is supposed to be a dialogue about a book, a novel on the Holocaust. And so what happened? What race are the Jewish people? So you get a person of color, like my color, Whoopi's color, and you look at the people, what race are they? White against white crime. White people against another white person. In Europe, they were killing each other. The Nazis were killing people. The Nazis were killing a lot of people. The Nazis were killing their own group. People within the Nazi party, they were being killed off too. The brown shirts, as they called. The brown shirts were like the police force for the Nazi party. And once they got, they were used to like bully people and do a lot of stuff. And once they did their job, the Nazi party then kills off these people called the brown shirts, the thugs of the Nazi party. And then they ushered in what they call the SS, the elite group of the Nazi party. So it's like a hierarchy of hatred against the same group. What was going on? Okay, where did the Nazis get a lot of their philosophy from? It didn't come from Germany. It came from another country. Germans took on, and now it doesn't make them less responsible, but it didn't originate there. And what happened, what was going on in the United States during the time of Nazi Germany? Did you know, people, that the United States were taking black men and injecting them with the syphilis? It happened right at the time when Germany, the Nazi Germany, came into power. And this experiment that was being done happened from the 1930s to 1972. You do the math, people. How long was that? 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. So for at least 40 years. What happened in Nazi Germany was only for 13 years, about 13-year period. And after 13 13 years, reparations were given to those people. And only those people there. Reparations for the gypsies, they didn't get their own country or money. And they're still being mistreated in Europe. I met a Holocaust survivor. I'm a veteran, and I go to the VA hospital. And at that time, she was in her 80s, and she was telling me that she was a Holocaust survivor, and she told me her story and how she found some hole, something like that, and she stayed in the hole, and then she left. I think that was what she said, something about sandwiches or something. I could be wrong about that. I could be confused with another Holocaust survivor, but she escaped. I don't know, her falling in a hole, she said, and she stayed in there, and she was able to get out, get free. And right after that story, she was saying horrible things to harm about a particular ethnic group that also suffered under Nazi Germany. So the Holocaust did not shape her thinking to teach her that it's horrible to do and wish harm on another group. I was shocked. See, it's about a power. See, what people are giving power to speak, and people their voices are being taken away, and to take away someone's voice because they don't want to philosophy, and the philosophy was to harm. It's a man against man's humanity against humanity. Is a common theme. And if it was all about race, yes, they were told that they are considered different race, or that at least the Nazis, German, were considered a different race of the people. But that philosophy is being taught here in America. And by what teachers? And when they say it about us being inferior, I grew up in school in the 1970s, and my Jewish teacher told the classrooms, a sociology class, I think it was sociology, or psychology class. And this teacher said, and I remember where I sat right up in front, and an Asian girl sat right on my left. And he said that black people are inferior to white people, and that Asians are superior to whites. And I remember that being said and how I felt. So I'm confused. I'm confused about how then, again, and this is taking place in New York City, that, so I don't understand. That teacher was never reprimanded. It was considered, he has his opinion, and he's a teacher, but nothing ever happened to him. So I think it's really about accountability. What's being said? What is the intent behind what you say? And is it something that's true? Now, yeah, you have people say things that might be true, like let's say, hey, that person has bad breath. Hey, you got bad breath. It's not nice to say, but and it might have been true, but what was the intent to say that? Intent behind what you say. Nazi Germany was about their intent to impose upon other groups. And if you got in their way, they're going to eliminate you. And so now it seems like in the United States, people are being eliminated, and especially if you're a person of color and you don't have the same opinion. And I thought the opinion that Whoopi gave was the same opinion that my Jewish teachers taught us or was trying to convey to the class so that it will never happen again. Because it's about just their race being attacked. I'm not of that race. But the whole point was to share that story about the Holocaust because it can happen to anyone. And it happened to many people in Nazi Germany. More than just Jews were attacked. Yet many people that were attacked under their regime. And anybody who fought against it was also targeted. So what's it all about race? No, it's about man being inhumane to man. And I think it also goes deeper. Not only just about man against man, but about there's a movie called They Live. And I think that incident that happened in Europe, Nazi Germany, was really about that movie called They Live that came out in the 1980s. Who are they in that movie They Live? Okay. Yeah, what race are they? So, in fact, the fact that the Jews of Europe had to wear a yellow star is really to signify that the people that is against them, that their phenotypes were very similar to each other. It's not like me and a white German person. I don't need a yellow star on me or a black star on me or any color star on me to distinguish myself from a white person. My skin is very dark. You know what I'm saying? So you have two major groups. And phenotypically, they were very similar. Similar to so much of a degree that to distinguish them at a distance, that they needed an identifying label upon them. And racism is all about, or isms is all about labels. You can create an infinite number of labels, but in the end, it's people hurting other people. And for Whoopi to be now targeted and suspended, I hope it's with pay. You have cops that kill other people. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought the person was such and such. Oh well, and nothing happens. Did Whoopi have any malice? And they call her an anti-Semite. Could you believe it? Wow. If you really know, I don't know, if you really know what's going on, people. Let me see what else. You know what else? You know, in what they call the black Jews, the Ethiopian Jews. Did you know in the country that they live in that Middle Eastern country, that they are targeted? They're not allowed to have children. Why don't they talk about that? Why don't they talk about that? Did you know that the Ethiopian Jew, I'm going to say the name of the country, against Israel? The Ethiopian Jew is being targeted in their own country of Israel. They're forbidden, they're not allowed to have children. They put in these birth control things that you put inside their arm. And it's a birth control thing that they use. And when they want to have it removed, they're not able to have children. And this was going on for years. And it's all on television, the interviews, and the people who are doing it to them are being interviewed on TV, on social, the internet. It says, oh, well, they're just poor people, and, we got to, prevent them from having children. But how come their Ashkenazi neighbors who are just as poor, and they're given donations, the Ashkenazi Jews of living in Israel. There is like a food drive, things international to bring money and food for the Ashkenazi Jew, because their religion, the ultra orthodox, what do you call it? The Hasidic Jewish movement there has it so that they don't want to work initially. They want to study the Torah and other scriptures and other literature, so they can't work. So they're given, donations so they can stay, for the men to be able to stay home and just study. And these are married men with children. But it doesn't apply for the Ethiopian Jew. They work and they have to join the military. So how come in Israel that it's an unequal, okay, you're going to teach about the Holocaust and about race, since you're saying, okay, that the Holocaust in Europe was about race, about the race issue. So how come in Israel are they reenacting hatred against and using race against one type of Jew for another Jew? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Why is that? So you have an Ethiopian Jew who's forced to go in the military, but their white Ashkenazi Jewish counterpart doesn't have to fight in the military. Is that equal? What is that about? Now that is about racism. And it's also about man being inhumane to other men. Because they think that they are entitled to things that others are not. It's still man against man and exploiting the power difference between groups. Why do men take advantage of women many times? Because they have the power to do it. It doesn't make it right, but it happens. So I wish they'd talk about this on the program like this. Why? They don't talk about it. You have people right now in that country who cannot conceive because other people in their country feel that they're acting just like Nazis. Isn't that being Nazistic? To sterilize someone because of their race? If the Holocaust is about race, why are they repeating the same things? What Ethiopian ever put any Ashkenazi Jew in the oven? What Ethiopian Jew ever made lambskins out of them? Never. It never happened. We never did that. Black people never did that to Ashkenazi Jews. So why are they being harmful upon a group of people because of their race, their color? And they did nothing. They didn't do anything historically against those particular groups. I don't understand it. I don't. What's happened in Israel is a repeat to some degree what the Nazis did. It is genocide. When you say, we're going to make it so that these people never conceive and have children, but we're going to promote the Ashkenazi living in Israel to have as many children as they want, even though they are in poverty, severe poverty. You're going to allow one group to be able to flourish in having children, and another group to have zero. And you don't talk about it. And you get angry with Whoopi to say that the Holocaust was about mankind being cruel to humanity. And she's getting censored. And that usually means without pay. Is that equal? Is that right? So is the Anti-Defamation League going to fight for the black Jews of Israel? That they can stay at home and just study the Torah all day, just like the Ashkenazis, and just study all day and have children? Do you think that's fair? Or is that racist? Where did they learn that type of racism? Hello? I don't know. I don't know what else. Yeah. What happened to yeah, when you get vilified. Oh, I almost forgot. I did mention about my history class that I had in New York City. Yeah, as I mentioned, that as a young girl in junior high school, I had to learn about the Holocaust. But did you know, in American history, that the story about in Germany, not I'm sorry, it was in Holland. It was a young woman, young girl. She could have been 13 or going on 13. She was a young girl, and she ultimately was kidnapped. She and her family were in hiding because they were expelling the Jews in Holland, and they were to be put into what they call concentration camps. And so someone ratted the family out, and she was killed. And she had during her stay in this house that she was hiding out, she had a diary, and it's known now as the Diary of Anne Frank. And even before her capture, she actually wanted to be a writer and write a story. And it's interesting, her surviving member publishes it. It's really interesting. But either way, you get to learn about her experience being a captive, someone who's hiding out from her oppressors. But did you know in America there's a similar story? But I wasn't taught it in school. Here I'm from America, born in America, and in a school system that is controlled by people that don't look like me. And they did not want to teach about this particular story. It's a book called The Stories of, let's see, oh, I go. The Diary of a, oh God, The Diary of a Slave Girl. Yeah, The Diary of a Slave Girl. And this was a true story about a woman who was enslaved. She was of mixed blood, and she hid in this house for quite a long time. And she eventually does get her freedom. How come that book wasn't promoted in New York City? And New York City at that time has a lot of black people, and this was in a predominant black area. How come we didn't read that book in school? But we're going to learn and read up on something that happened in another country, but not my own. Why didn't if it's about sensitivity, and in New York City you have many teachers who are of the Jewish faith, and they're about education, how come they didn't want to educate me on the history of what happened to many of our ancestors? It's a true story, and it's a book about a slave. We're going to learn about the book of Anne Frank. But how come we're not going to learn about, yes, hi. Happy New Year. Yes, Happy New Year. Thank you. How come they didn't want us to learn about our own history? Because they want to keep you ignorant. They didn't want you to learn the glory of that you had black people in America who resisted slavery. You had black people who knew how to write. You had black people who organized. But they didn't teach that one, but we're going to learn about and read about a diary of a woman, a young girl in Europe, but not read the diary of a black girl in America. It's foolish. But when they did talk about when they did talk about slavery, you know what they do in New York City? See, they're very cruel in New York City. What they showed with us, they showed black men with a lynch, and they had a little white girl laughing. That was my history on Black History. I remember that. And that was a Jewish teacher in that class. It was a history teacher. And that same history teacher was having sex with my friend in school, my girlfriend in school. He was having sex with two girls in that school. I found out after that, once I graduated, she confided me and told me what happened. And then I heard two other people who knew about the case. And one was a family member of his, and they told me something about what happened. Yes, I know it's a true story. But either way, that it was a social studies book. And it was a small picture. And watching this, and oh, God have mercy. God have mercy. That was our history. Yeah, that history was showed like that to make you feel disempowered and to shame you publicly. Showing a little white girl laughing and pointing at the black man that was hung in my social studies book in school. Oops, all these people left. See, I'm offending people. Don't be offended. Please don't be offended. I'm not here to offend. I'm bringing to light why some individuals might be surprised what's happening to Whoopi in New York City. Yes, hello. Hey, C. James. Yeah. So what happened? So it was okay to show that in the history books. You might say, oh, but it's history. We got to show it. But why do you show what you show? And you have powerful books like The Diary of a Slave Girl, but that wasn't permitted in our school. Because why? Because they'll put light to the real stories behind the enslavement of Black America. Throughout the whole Americas, why don't we learn any truth of even comparative history of, let's say, slavery in Brazil versus the United States or versus the Caribbean? You don't learn about it. And this is something that happened for several hundred years. But they don't teach about your history. And again, what they showed the history, they showed the guy with the being lynched and a little white girl laughing. That was in our history book in high school. That was high school. And to teach you how they want you to view, but what they're doing to us and other black people here in New York City. And then someone mentioned about there's the NOI. The NOI leader. And he didn't believe in it. He had a book. And the book had content from other Jewish scholars. All the data that he collected in this particular book that his organization helped, either that they made or they helped make, were all written by Jewish people. But when he compiled it and then published it, he was called an anti-Semite. And so, wow. And they even had a meeting with him in private. And they said either you do retract certain things, or you will never be heard in the history books, nor your movement, your Million Man March, because we control the narrative. if you don't speak, if you don't retract. He said, I'm not going to retract. You have to invite him to dinner. They gave him dinner and everything, and then they went in another room to talk. It's abuse of power, in my opinion. Those individuals are abusing their power, and to force a narrative if they don't agree, or if they put something that makes you look unfavorable. There are many things that are shared throughout literature, but as someone being then condemned and saying you're going to be erased in the history books, it's not fair. So if you don't have a particular narrative, you too would be wiped out of history books. Well, so that's why you write your own books, and you don't bring your kids to public school. Have homeschool your kids, because they're teaching lies about you. They're teaching things to harm you, to harm your ability to move forward. Teaching narratives that that your IQ is not as high as others. That was horrible what my teacher said. And it was a Jewish teacher at that. And nothing happened to them. It was considered all right. You know, in the school system, see, there's a whole system that's going on in New York City. And you have groups that are taking money out of the black community. How they do it? You know what's being done in New York City and neighboring towns, that they have, like, you could be exempt from property tax if you have your home as a church. And so certain members of this particular religion are doing just that. But then they do it, and they oftentimes seem to live right next to black people. And so what happens in these schools with black people, that they have less and less monies, because now we have to support these homes that are now classified as churches, and the tax money that we pay has to go into those other schools, and they're not even part of the public school. So money's taken out of our system, public schools, and being siphoned to this particular group, and nothing's happening. And you know who was in charge of that school system? They showed who were the members of the board. I said, wow. And so I'm just shocked. I'm just shocked. This is all in New York City, and this, like, also around New York City, Rockland County, Westchester, all of these areas. And you have a lot of black people that live in there, and then you have neighboring groups that target these areas. And they suck out all the money from these black schools, blacks and West Indians that live up there. They have to support their school system and a foreign, a private school system, and they're right in the back, and they're not paying taxes. Why are they talking about that? But they're going to get angry with Whoopi because she feels that the Holocaust was really about man's inhumanity to man. I don't know what's evil about that. That is very accurate. What is happening in those areas? Again, man doing other things against other mankind in the school system. It's a constant theme. And they're getting angry with her. I'm not a Whoopi fan. You know, she's been out for many, many years. And, wow. Boy. They're taking money out of our school system. And they're being clever about it. And if you expose it, you're going to be considered a bigot. Because everybody knows who's behind that. And Antifa. They would mention something with certain groups. Why Black Lives Matter. Yes, Black Lives Matter. Every life matters. Who seemed to be fueling Black Lives Matter? Was it not Antifa? And who's Antifa? Who is Antifa? And I shared in videos in 2020. I think, no, 2019, I think it was. And they had Antifa there in New York City doing melee. And then someone got grabbed. This one got grabbed. And someone pulled. Who's Antifa? Who's Antifa? But they work right alongside Black Lives Matter organization to do melee. But we all know who Antifa is. And no outcry. No outcry. Again, the leeching of one group to another and hiding behind black faces. I'm just amazed. And David Icke, he spoke very boldly. And then he was squashed. He was kicked off of social media for certain reasons. Soon, when you speak a narrative about something, you're axed. It gotta stop. I mean, I'm just dumbfounded. You're gonna kick dirt in somebody's face, and then someone said something of, about human, the human soul of a matter, the essence of what's going on in the world. What's going on in Rwanda? Rwanda in Africa. What happened in Rwanda? You had two groups, and it was a mass genocide. What was that all about? They're both the same race, just like the Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, and the white Germans. Their phenotypes were very similar. So how could you say it's about race? It's about control. It's always about control. This is a prison planet. We're all slaves here. We're all being abused here. And they're having one group attack another. Yeah, this is a prison planet. And it's designed to put pressure on us and to have one group fight another. And if Nazi Germany, divide and conquer, that's right. And so if the Nazi Party was so evil, then how come they don't teach this? If the Nazi Party was so evil, how come the U.S. employed thousands of those people in the United States? And if Hitler was so evil, why did according to certain histories that they don't want you to know, Hitler didn't die in a bunker. See, that's what they told you. But what the real story was that he was smuggled out of the country and brought to Latin America. And that he was also brought in the USA to give him medical treatment. You don't think any Jewish people knew that he was here in this country getting medical care? He died a very elderly man. Why don't they teach that? Why don't you teach that? Why would you let somebody in your country like that? I didn't let him in this country. No way. But they don't let you know that. Hitler did not die in a bunker in the 1940s. Hitler, they're not sure exactly where his body is. No one really knows. But I know someone knows. And he did not die in a bunker. He was smuggled out of Germany. And they had him in a, what do you call it? What was that? I think it might have been smuggled. They had submarines. And they got him out of there. He is worshipped. And I think people, I think there's some members of that oppressed group that actually worship that guy. Because why? Because it's all about outcome. What outcome do you want in a situation? It's like playing, what do you call it, chess. You have people that love playing chess. And that's what that was, a game that was played in Nazi Germany. It was a game of chess. And yes, certain people had to be, according to the people over there, were dispendable. Because the outcome was to get a particular thing. And it was, according to them, a Holocaust. And we already learned that the word Holocaust means sacrifice through fire. Sacrifice through fire. I didn't make that term up. They made that term up. And so it's really putting point on what it's all about. A game of chess, and lives were sacrificed because they wanted a particular outcome. They wanted to establish a new country. Germany wanted to form a new country. And Germany has another, what do you call it, had escaped Germany, and they allegedly are in another planet. Did you hear that one? They had a woman with a woman who was into metaphysics, and she was able to download information on science and technology and to make spacecrafts. How come they don't teach about that? And how come they did not teach that? Why did those people? Why, when you look at the victims of the Holocaust, the people in the death camps, why were they so skinny? Because they were used for slave labor. They don't teach that. They teach other narratives, but they don't teach what was really going on. The people of Germany, the people who were in the prison camps, you had all different types of people in the prison camps. Why were they so skinny? They were used in slave labor, in underground bunkers, creating these spacecrafts. The Jews of Europe had science skills that were being utilized, just like in Schindler's List. Schindler's List, they had skills to. Schindler was a manufacturer of these vehicles, these motors and stuff, and he used their labor. He said, "Hey, I'll have you build my cars. I'll have them spare your life, and I'll say, hey, they can work for my company. Why just kill them? Have them work for our company." A list was created who they're going to take. Yeah, teach that about the Holocaust. What was the labor for? The labor is the real secret about the Holocaust, and that they don't want you to know. That is an even deeper story. And why don't they really teach about what the slave trade in the Americas was all about, from Africa to the Americas? What was that all about? You think that also was just about race? Or was it something deeper? What was the labor for? What was the resources that they were trying to produce? And what was that who was that production sold to? That's the real secret. And I think the stories are very similar. that probably that the transatlantic slave trade was for a labor force to produce raw materials, I think, for those underground bunkers that were being developed. That's what I think that it was really for. But they want to just focus you on the race card when the real issue is probably the extraterrestrials. Getting raw materials, sending them out in space, or to build the underground bunkers. Because why did it stop? Why did why did it all stop? Because it's finished being made. You don't need it anymore. But people are still being human trafficked today, of all different races and colors and religions and nationalities today. So when I hear things like what Whoopi is saying, that it's about man being inhumane to man, she got it right on the head. Yeah, more power to you to say what you said. And it's unfortunate you had to tell them what they wanted you to what they wanted to hear. Yeah, race. What is race? It's all about people being mean. It's about the extraterrestrials, and that they infiltrate different nations, different peoples, and they're controlling the narrative, and they're controlling us, controlling humanity. Yeah, that's what it's all about. So I know it's long-winded here. Wow, it's a shame. Again, I don't watch The View, and it's unfortunate that you can't have a view on The View, because you're going to be called an anti-so-and-so, and that's not fair. Oh, okay, thank you, Kiki. Yes, it's not fair. Yeah, this is a lynching, a modern. This is a smack on the hand that to keep that black chick in order. It's awful. It's awful. 2 weeks without pay. Wow. You can just say, hey, we don't agree with you there. We think it's just solely by race. Teach about Hitler being financed by the United States being brought to the United States after the war, bringing in these these scientists. So here they rather hire a scientist from Germany, and during that time, black people in America were being in the Tuskegee experiments. We were being experimented on for about 40 years. Again, the Holocaust only happened for 13 years, and some of the victims of the Holocaust got reparations, and during that time, for 40 years, the people of Tuskegee, the black people of Tuskegee, never got reparations for their harm, what was harm to them. Isn't that horrible? Isn't it horrible? But you're gonna you're gonna mess with Whoopi. Really sad. Really sad. Yeah, we're gonna learn about other people's narratives, but your own. Here, I'm a black woman from New York City, and they didn't share the book with me, the Diary of a Slave Girl, but they're gonna force us to read the book called the Diary of Anne Frank. I saw the movie. I identified at the time. I was just a little girl at the time, maybe 8 years old. And okay, so I liked this. I liked the little girl because she was a little girl like me, and that's why I didn't know what race was. I didn't know about things like that back then, but I identified with her pain and that she was a little girl, and I was a little girl, and that's all it was. It's about humanity harming humanity. The little girl, the little girl, she that's what it's about for me, my interpretation. But again, some people's interpretations on a horrendous event is being squashed. Yeah, there's a lot of New York City. Horrible what you're doing. You know what you're doing, and you're doing bad things to black people here in New York City and in this country. But you're gonna harm Whoopi. Again, I'm not a fan of Whoopi, but again, she doesn't deserve what she's getting now. And now she's she got to pay her rent, her more, whatever. 2 weeks. I hope it's with pay. I hope it's with pay. Yeah. Let me say any messages here before I go. Yeah, they're getting reparations now. Yeah. There are many people in this world who have gotten reparations. But God forbid if I say, a black person in America who says the word reparations is like an eyesore. See, it's taking responsibility. They don't want to take responsibility for their actions, that what was done to us as a group was wrong. But yet you pay everybody else, and I just go on and on and on. People like Whoopi, what does she have? Couple more years she has on TV, and that's it. Boom. That's it. New York City's getting a whole new pool of people. We're going to be forgotten about in the history books here in New York City. Yeah, they don't want you, they didn't teach about slavery in New York City. You know that there was slavery in New York City, downtown Manhattan. What about what happened in Manhattan? In what do you call it? It's what we call Central Park. I did a video on this a couple of years ago. Seneca Village. It was an establishment after slavery ended in New York City. The blacks are being harassed by the new Europeans that were coming there, and so they found about land further up north, and moved to what's now Central Park. They lived there for some time, and then it was destroyed for development. Isn't that horrible? But why don't they teach that? Why don't the Jewish teachers teach that? Why don't you teach that? Because you don't love us as a group. Some of you are very nice. Some of you are godly people. Godliness is godliness. It's not a religion that makes people godly. It's what's in your heart. It's either you have it or you don't. But if you really care about accuracy in history, why don't you start teaching real black history in New York City and bring up the quality of life for Black America? But I doubt that's going to happen, because if we don't sing a certain narrative, you're going to slap our hand and suspend us or kick us out of where we live. So we'll see what happens to Whoopi and anybody else. You know, she did apologize right away. She did apologize. I don't know for what. It's called The View. What she said was not to be pejorative or insulting, but an inner interpretation of an event. And the Jewish people were not the only ones in those concentration camps. Black people were in there too. Gypsies were in there too. Slavics, religious people, Jehovah's Witnesses, a whole bunch of people. But they didn't teach that in school. But they did teach people being thrown into pits to traumatize you, to scare you. And they showed me that in the 7th grade. Is that age appropriate to show little children in the 7th grade see mangled bodies being put in pits? And they did that in my class, and a little Indian boy fainted in class. And the teacher just really didn't care. God help us. Be compassionate to all types of people. It's good to know about human history because it's all about humanity. Okay? Yes. Casey Jane says, racism of black people is still just as prominent as the past. It's just hidden more with the system. Yes. Yes, it's just hidden. And they want you to think, yeah, let me go further. I'm sorry. They think in New York City that because they have now more posters with black people on the cover, or more black people on magazine covers, or black people being in commercials, who controls those publications and television? It's not people that look like me. It's just to pretend that something is being reconciled. If you don't have power over your own purse, you're still being enslaved, because you're at someone else's mercy to tell your story. You're at someone else's mercy to develop homes, affordable homes and all that. We don't control our own pocket. We don't even control our food source. We are still like modern day slaves. You had slaves that had money, had some money. You had slaves who were able to have a little job on the side, anyway, to keep some of that money. You had some slaves who had more money than poor whites. And that's discussed in the book, Diary of a Slave Girl. And they won't touch that book. Why? Yes, a lot of things. You learn about your own history and learn to be independent as you can. Yes, because see, you can make a lot of money, like Whoopi. I'm pointing at the monitor with Whoopi. You can make a lot of money like Whoopi, but you're still a rich slave because you don't control your narrative. We still don't control our own narrative in 2022. And again, they're going to try to instigate something. See, yeah, today is 2/2/22, February 2nd, 2022. I don't know. Okay, that's my computer. So it's something numerology, I guess. I don't know what that signifies, but try to stay calm. I know I'm a little excited, but don't let them have you do something physical to cause a riot. Knowledge is a form of power. Knowledge that's utilized is power and is powerful. But they don't want you to be powerful. They want to keep you in darkness. They're screwing you up there, you know what? And soon when you mention something, they're gonna smack your hand. Wow. Really horrible. Really horrible. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm just going around in circles right now. So yeah, this video is not designed to offend anybody, but to share my view about through the perspective of here a dark-skinned person is looking at two people, an Ashkenazi Jew and a white German, and they look the same. So how can you say, in probably her perspective, was it about race? They're the same race. They're the same race. So now they're going to smack her hand. Oh, yeah, what race are they? What race are they? What race are they today? How do they view themselves? How does the modern day Jew, how do they label themselves racially? That would be interesting. What do their religions say about people who aren't of their race? That would be very enlightening too. That's all. I don't want to say anymore. I thank you again. Again, it's not to offend, it's to think of, to really think and ponder what mankind is doing to mankind. What are we doing to each other? And when you have one group that has more authority over another group, and if you disagree or just have a viewpoint, you see what happens. Okay, so thank you again, people. Peace, love, and joy. And yes, as I always say, no matter what your race, religion, or gender is, to love the person you see in the mirror. Love yourself and love your neighbor. Thank you again. Peace, love, joy, and power to all humanity. Okay? Bye-bye.